Welcome to the Mismatch. I'm Chris Vernon, and joining me as he does every week from TheRinger.com is Dave Jacoby. Jacoby!
What's happening, Verno?
The Emirates Cup is set.
Full swing, headed to Vegas.
Bucks, Hawks, Thunder, Rockets. We will get to all of it in our love and loathed from the week, but some news and notes that we need to touch on. We've got an old-fashioned newsbreaker agent war that took place since we last spoke.
Love it.
For those unaware, Shams Charania, who is the preeminent newsbreaker in the NBA, reported the following, something that we touched on in our episode earlier in the week, were the Jimmy Butler rumors and different teams that Jimmy Butler might be open to being traded to, given his contract situation and the obvious ability for another team to sign him going forward. Would have to be part of the deal. There would have to be some kind of agreement with that. So anyways, he had mentioned a couple of the Texas teams. He had mentioned the Warriors. And then he updated it and said, hey, the Phoenix Suns are another team. The Jimmy Butler's agent, Bernie Lee, has indicated in league circles that the six-time All-Star is open to as a trade destination. That's joining Dallas and Houston and Golden State. Okay, so that was breaking news. And this is the first time I can remember this. Got community noted on X under the Shams Charania tweet. It says Jimmy Butler's agent has publicly stated these claims are unfounded and false.
Oh, that's a nice way of putting it. That's a very nice way of putting what Bernie had to say.
Here's what he had to say. All right, listen, I gave you a pass yesterday because I was busy. If you don't stop putting my name on your complete and utter made-up bullshit because you know you normally aren't worth my time to acknowledge. And then he went on and said, I don't know what I'm going to do because I'm a middle-aged dad, but just know it would indicate severe dislike. World, all of this is fabricated. I have never, and honestly, it wouldn't help me or the position I represent to do anything that's been reported by said, quote, journalist.
Love it. He said, I got time today. That's what he said. He's like, yesterday I was busy. Today I got time for you, Shams. Now, I understand how this sausage is made, and I'm not here going to speak in this microphone and say who's right or wrong. I have no idea, who said what to whom. I'm pretty sure that Shams got some information from someone. He didn't just fabricate it out of nowhere. So I don't know how exactly this happened, but I love that it happened because I love this kind of gossip and rumor and palace intrigue, and there's an even better aspect to this story, which I find more intriguing.
Front offices and people within these organizations, every one of them talks to Shams now, Jacoby. Woj is gone. So let me just explain. There were the Woj teams and the Shams teams. Okay? And you were one or the other. Woj is gone. He's at St. Bonaventure. All these teams are talking to Shams now. So he is getting it from the teams.
Yeah.
He's getting it from the teams. Hey, have you talked to Bernie? Whatever. So it's from that side. So if Bernie Lee wants to be mad, I mean, he could be mad at Shams Charania for saying that he has indicated to these teams. So, and I guess you could presuppose that the teams are lying to Shams, but that's how that conversation goes.
Oh, and they're both 100% right in their version of the events. Shams got some information that he felt solid enough to report, and Bernie is like, I never said this. And they're both 100% right through their perspective. What the objective truth is, we're not going to parse that out and figure that out. But Verno, this is what I want to talk about. Not the back and forth between the agent and the reporter. I want to talk about Jimmy Butler's braids because tracking the color of his braids is interesting. First, it was golden, and then it was a royal blue. Those are the colors of the Golden State Warriors. And then it was a Rockets red. Interesting. And if you watched a little bit of that game last night against the Raptors, he now has a bright orange braids. What team has bright orange? Is it the Knicks? No. The Suns. It is not a coincidence that the color of his braids match the exact colors of the 4 teams that were mentioned in these reports. Do you think that is a coincidence?
I didn't even realize that this was going on.
Oh, that's why you have me on the show.
That is why I have you on the show.
That's why I'm here.
He's changing his braids based upon reports?
Yeah, no, not based upon reports. It's just his way of trolling. You know, that's what he does. He's kind of a troll. So he gets us talking about these things, but it's not an accident. This isn't like, and it's also, you know, like, listen, 2 middle-aged dads, to use Bernie's, 2 middle-aged white dads talking about black hair can easily get us in trouble. So I will just say this. And my wife is black. I didn't realize how long putting in braids and taking braids out takes until I married my wife. I didn't realize it was like a full day thing. So this is like a lot of time and effort that Jimmy Butler is, not just like the color of socks he's wearing. He's putting a lot of time and effort into this. And the last 4 colors literally match the colors of the 4 teams that he was rumored to be traded to.
The other thing that stood out to me as this story is breaks, and I see the amount of anger that came from Bernie on this, is it feels to me like those stories come out and Bernie is then directing his anger at Shams Charania, and he's doing it very publicly, because this is what I would posit. Pat Riley called and screamed at him.
Oh, interesting.
That's what I'd guess.
Interesting.
Yeah. I would guess that this caused him big problems on the Heat side. That's what I'd guess.
And so let's just talk about the actual trade instead
because
of like
Pat Riley is not to be trifled with.
No. And he's not afraid to call you up and chew you out.
And he is so far beyond the point of caring.
Well, it's interesting because Pat Riley, don't forget, at the end of the season, Pat Riley was like, we need Jimmy Butler to play basketball. Like, before we start talking about extensions, let's talk about him playing basketball. He was firing shots it was like 3 days after the season ended for the Heat.
So that's what it seems like to me. It seems like that became a very uncomfortable situation probably on that end, which made him even more angry about the report getting out. And so he's got to turn his attention to, and also make it look like, hey, I am not talking to teams. I am not gauging their interest and letting them know, hey, if you do want to make a trade for my guy, you know, if you want to saddle up and you want to make this deal, then we're there. And he will sign with you going forward. And so that is something that if I am, and I understand that, if I am Pat Riley, I would be very upset about that as well, right? Because that's how that comes off. And so I think it's totally plausible that he's doing that. But I also know the last thing on earth he would want is Pat Riley or anybody else thinking he's doing that.
Well,
it's the agent.
Who's interested in signing Jimmy Butler to a max extension? Who's interested in that?
Right.
Who wants to do that right now? Like a 1-year rental on a contending team is one thing, but like trading $48 million of stuff to the Heat, if you're going to give up that much,
right,
you want to get more than just 4 months of Jimmy Butler back. He's got a player option next year for $52 million, but he wants a huge extension at 35 years old. Since he's been with the Heat, he played 58, 52, 57, 64, and 60 games. And there's some playoffs where he was hurt too. Like, if you're a GM in the league, do you want to trade for Jimmy Butler and then sign Jimmy Butler to an extension until he's like 39 years old? I do not.
Totally fair. I will say, I do not believe Shams Charania gets his stories from Chat GPT as he was accused.
No, I don't think so either.
But that would be awesome.
I've had trouble using Chat GPT. I try to make an image with AI. I can't get it right. I can't get it right.
Couple other things that we've got to get to. The games were pretty much duds last night and did feel like a letdown, especially after we had gotten so into the cup. One thing worth mentioning is Sabonis, who we have credited many times throughout this year. It was a close game against the Pelicans, but maybe the most consistent star we have in the entire NBA. He virtually never has a big game or a bad game. It's only a matter of how big it is. And they needed every bit of his 32 and 20 last night. So another huge game for him. It's worth mentioning.
Pelicans just don't have anybody down low.
Nobody.
They just don't. There's just no one home.
And we knew that going into the season.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're playing the Pelicans and you're scoring big, you're going to have a night. Keep that in mind for your FanDuel accounts.
Do want to mention Bronny James, who played for the South Bay Lakers and had 30, as much as he's gotten beaten up and joked about over the course of the last 6 months. It is worth mentioning that he did play in a road game.
His first road game.
And B, dropped 30. So shout out to Bronny for his first big game in the G League.
Well, I said to myself, I was like, let me take a look at this. So I watched the highlights. He's hitting threes.
Yep.
Cut an alley-oop. Threw an alley-oop. He looked really comfortable. He hit his first 2 threes early in the game. And I think that gave him the confidence. You know what I mean? You know when you're playing, it's just you hit your first couple. You're like, oh, today might be my day. And it was his day. He looked good. Shout out to Bronny James.
Meanwhile, nobody knows what's going on with his dad, who missed practice and is now out for tonight's game against Minnesota for personal reasons.
I'll tell you exactly what's going on. During this week, because he's an all-star, so he's going to be so busy during All-Star weekend, this is basically like a little mini break. That's what this is. Because they don't schedule that many games on that Tuesday, Wednesday are just cup games. I don't know what the Lakers' schedule is. I think they have one game this weekend. And he's like, all right, I'll miss a game, but I'll be gone for 5 days and just get a mini vacation break. This is what he's doing.
He did this a couple of years ago at All-Star, where he just kind of popped in, popped out.
Yep. Yeah.
And it was on vacation, right? Well, maybe that's so. Other thing that we've got to mention is one of the very good young stars in the league, Scotty Barnes. You and I were both watching the Knicks-Toronto game a few nights ago, and Scotty Barnes had what looked to be at the time a pretty bad injury, and it turns out it was pretty bad. Terrible news for the Raptors, as they are going to lose him for, quote, several weeks. So this was not your average throw it in water, deal with the swelling ankle sprain that was sustained by Scotty Barnes. This is something that's going to keep him out for a long time, possibly months.
Yeah, remember he just got back. I think it was Jokic. He caught an elbow in the face. And I think it was Jokic, but I might be mistaken. But I remember it was a huge big with a powerful elbow to the face. So he had an orbital fracture. He just got back from that 3 games ago. And then here he is again with a really bad sprain. Landed on Cat's foot. And Cat pretended to be hurt too. And then he realized Scotty was really hurt, so he got up.
So years ago, when I first started in media, you kind of look at the landscape of the media jobs. And one of the things I always thought I would be great at is being a headline writer. I always thought that I'd be very good at that. Not I couldn't edit because I'm not a writer and I can't fix your article. But if you just want me to read the article and then put a great headline with it, and especially one that someone would click, I could be really good at it. So what I want to do, and I need you to do me a huge favor, okay?
I'm not promising anything.
No. In this moment where I debut my headline writing chops, I need you to stay mature, okay? I need you to stay mature.
I should probably just
because I am offering my services to the Toronto Star, given these terrible circumstances where the young star went out. So we have, with Barnes out, Toronto needs Dick more than ever. Growth of Dick, very important after Barnes' loss. With shortened roster, Raps will have to ride. Okay. With shortened roster, here you could do that one. With
strong dick, more important than ever.
Yeah.
Dick needs to rise to the occasion.
Obviously, our thoughts with Scotty
all
Barnes.
Waiting for Dick to rise to the occasion.
So if the Toronto Star needs any of our help, we can obviously help in this situation. All right, let's get to the teams that we loved and loathed this week. And obviously, unfortunate that you were unable to stay mature during that.
Just trying to help.
Team you loved.
It's easy. The Tuesday night cup night, first cup experience. I'm thinking, all right, the Bucks are just going to steamroll the Magic. It'll be a nice little appetizer. I'm sure we'll get to that game later. And I was so excited about the Mavs Thunder game. I was so excited about that game. I thought it was going to be like a true showcase night, showcase game, sort of like that Mavs Warriors game was when Clay went back to the Bay. And man, the team I love is the Thunder. I mean, they had a game plan defensively and they executed it, and they made Luka, they just took Luka completely out of the game. Now, I don't think that doubling Luka at half court is a sustainable strategy. But when they did it in the first half, they would get the ball out of his hands, and they were so fast and would swarm and scramble behind that double team that they couldn't really take advantage of it the way you would expect, an NBA offense that's playing 4-on-3 would. And between like Dort, Caruso, and Cason Wallace, Luka just had absolutely no answers. This guy had 2 points at halftime. He was 1 for 7 and looked completely lost. The Thunder swarming defense, I absolutely loved. And also those orange jerseys, again, it just seemed like they were buzzing everywhere. And they forced 18 turnovers in that game. And I've got a stat. Last season, they led the league with 12 games of forcing at least 20 turnovers. So far this season, remember, a quarter of the season has gone by. They have 10 games where they've forced 20 turnovers from their opponents. Like their defense is just absolutely phenomenal. And then when you add the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander 39-point performance on the offensive end, and he just seems so comfortable that I love this team so much. And I mentioned it on Bill's pod, and I have to say it here too. I'm watching this team, and I'm saying this is easily the best team in the West because the defense is just so good. Like the Magic showed us in the previous game, when you have a defense that good, you're always in the game. And the Magic showed us that in the previous game, even though in a loss. But they kept cutting to Chet. And just remember how good Chet was before he got hurt. They're going to get Chet back. This team, which is easily the best team in the Western Conference, is going to dramatically get better very soon on both ends of the floor. And of course, Hartenstein. You know I love him. Team I love, Oklahoma City Thunder.
Easily the best team.
Easily.
Interesting.
That's why you're smirking? You think the Grizzlies got a shot?
Interesting.
You think the Grizzlies have a shot? Is that why you're smirking? I was wondering why you're making those faces. Easily the best team in the Western Conference. Easily.
Okay.
It's not, There's absolutely no question about it.
Okay. There's one team that's right behind them that has lost the most games to injury this year, and they're 2.5 games back of them. But,
okay.
And they're also much farther along and actually have had some playoff success and have award winners. But that's neither here nor there. That's neither here nor there. I love the Oklahoma City Love Fest is very real. One thing I will say for them is that they played against that team, a team they lost to in the playoffs, by the way, last year. And that's where, this is retribution, right? They lost to that team in the playoffs last year. PJ Washington cannot be that important because they mauled them. And PJ Washington
Derrick Jones. Derrick Jones was good in that series, too.
Both of them. I mean, they really got done in by PJ Washington and Derrick Jones Jr. in that series last year, and it was very noticeable that neither of those were available. I do think they missed Jones Jr. in that perimeter defense. He was the guy that they put on people every single night. At the end of the year, there was always, and I think you're seeing on the wing defense front, you're seeing that from teams around the league. There was a chart at the end of the year, most times spent on other teams' best perimeter player. And right there at the very top of that list was Derrick Jones Jr. Right there at the very top of that list was Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. And I think both of those teams have missed those guys as teams that were, considered elite level teams last year in the Western Conference. And I think that's part of the reason that they're having a much tougher time, because not only were those guys part of those teams last year, those guys were the assignment, right? If you have whoever your best perimeter player was, It's the Lou Dorts, it's the Derek Jones Juniors, it's the Dylan Brookses, it's the Kentavious Caldwell Pope. Those guys get that assignment every single night. And you really need, more than ever, you need good wing defense now in the NBA.
I think you're absolutely right. And one thing I do want to say about this game and the Oklahoma City Love Fest, I watched that game and I walked away saying, if this was a 7-game series, I'm picking the Mavs in game 2. Like after a Luka game like that and a Kyrie game like that, and I just felt like they had a strategy for Luka that they weren't ready for. But if this was a 7-game series, I would expect the Mavs to dramatically bounce back in the second game if it was. But it's a one. That's why the Emirates NBA Cup is one and done.
One and
Emirates
done.
Cup. It's a bracket.
Team that I loved. You're not going to love this. The Atlanta Hawks.
Oh, I loved them too.
Trae Young had 22 and 11, but the story was really the wings, DeAndre Hunter and Jalen Johnson, who Hunter had 24, Jalen Johnson had 21, 15, and 7. They outscored the Knicks 61-46 in the second half. They won points in the paint. They won second chance points. They won fast break points. They mauled them in bench points 43-14. And this was a terrible three-point shooting game for both of these teams. The Hawks were 9 of 31. The Knicks were 11 of 42. So you're talking 29 and 26% respectively. But the big thing to me was how hard this team played in this was not a game where guys were making a bunch of shots, and yet they had 22 offensive rebounds in the game. And just ran out the Knicks in that third quarter, flipped the game completely and won it 34-18. Both of their big guys, both Capella and Okongwu, Capella had 11 and 13, and Okongwu, I think, had 12 and 11. Both of them were like less than 25 minutes. So, I mean, you're talking big production out of those guys at that, that big role. And I was mega impressed, man. I was mega impressed in a one and done do or die game. I just thought how hard they played, and I know Tibbs was a little upset about the whistle after the game, though he did not go as far as some of his peers in terms of blaming the officials. That, to me, if you watch that looked like, and that's what was a little upsetting on the Knicks front, which is it's so trite to say one team wanted it more than the other, but you saw the Hawks flying around in a way that you did not see the Knicks flying around. They got those offensive rebounds, and they got a lot of that stuff done because of the effort that they were giving that it felt like their opponent was not.
So I'm gonna piggyback on this because the team I loathe is the Knicks, and part of it was just what you hinted at the end there. There was just seemed like a lack of urgency and a lack of effort, and we know the offense is the number one offense in the league, but what really showed against this team, the Hawks, like as you mentioned, that didn't have a great shooting night, was just they just had nothing. They could not get a stop in the fourth quarter. And Karl Anthony Towns, listen, he's not the best defensive player in the world, but he just seemed in between on every pick and roll. He was in between blitzing or hedging and getting back to his man. And it just seemed like in the fourth quarter when they needed to stop, they weren't just not getting stops. They were just getting easy lobs to baseline cutters or to the roll guy. They seemed disorganized, which is so uncharacteristic for a Tom Thibodeau team, but they could not get a stop. And watching the game, it just felt like the Knicks kind of felt tired. They felt older and they felt slower. That's what I was watching. And it was an effort thing. It was a want it more thing. And it might have something to do with having to play the Raptors on Monday night. It might have something to do with that because no one else had to play Monday night. There was the only game, but that's not an excuse. I expected the Knicks to win this game, and I expected them to win it pretty easily, and they couldn't get a stop in the second half. And the Hawks were getting easy buckets, just dunks. Yeah. It was a really disappointing.
You can't lose every category. They lost every category.
Oh, bro, 22 offensive rebounds. The Hawks had a possession where they got 3 offensive rebounds. Like it's one thing to not get a stop, but to not get a stop and then not get a stop and then not get a stop and then not get a stop in one possession.
What did you do better? Did you win points in the paint? Nope. Did you win fast break points? Nope. Did you win offensive rebounds?
Yeah.
You can't lose them all.
I'm watching with my wife and she's like, aren't they supposed to make open threes? I was like, yeah.
Yeah, they are actually.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
Yeah. Like Deuce McBride, who's been shooting the ball really well from 3 this year, just couldn't make a thing.
Holy mackerel. And that is one of those things where it's like, geez, can you at least give me something off the bench? Anybody? Because there was that one segment of time where it was like Precious Achiuwa pulling up for 3, and then McBride took like the contested one in the corner. It's like, God, these are the shots.
Bridges had an open one in the corner, just missed it. McBride had 2 open ones in the same corner, just missed them. I loathed that performance from the Knicks. I did.
Team I loathed, the Golden State Warriors, because not only did they lose, then they blamed the officials with their coach coming out, blaming the officials. And they did like everything wrong at the end of that game. Everything. Yes. You had Draymond up 3, horrible turnover. You have multiple shot clock violations. You have Steph Curry, who you're counting on, take this outrageous 3 with 11 seconds left on the shot clock.
There's like 13 seconds left in the game, and they're up by 1. You're winning the game, Steph Curry. A double step back from the top of the key. What are you doing?
Then you have Pods getting blocked, obviously, at the end. And so then you go to the press conference, and every headline then becomes how the Warriors were screwed. And if you notice, and if you were listening to it, Kerr never says that he didn't foul him. He said it was unconscionable to call it, and he had a challenge. And basically his idea was we wouldn't win the challenge. Like,
he would.
You wouldn't win the challenge because the guy fouled him. And so the idea is that you shouldn't call that in that moment. But to make that game all about that circumstance, which, by the way, Gary Payton Jr., what does he do? Or Gary Payton second, what is he doing anyway by throwing that ball away? It was just, I mean, to me, it was crazy to make it look like they lost because of Bill Kennedy. And I thought it was super funny that the NBA came out like immediately and been like, yeah, we stand by this. This was a foul. That happened.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Steve Kerr that in that moment, you probably should not make that call. But when you look at the replay, when Draymond Green initially engages with Jalen Green, he hits him right across the shoulder and reaches through his body to get contact with the ball. It was technically a foul. Now, again, I agree it should not have been called, but you were right about this. That wasn't, we always focus on the last possession. Like, that's one thing that we always do as basketball fans and media. We always talk about the very last possession of a game, but the previous 4 Warriors possessions were not exactly perfect. They're turning the ball over left and right. Steph Curry himself, like down the stretch, he didn't play well. And again, just like I understand what Steph is trying to do. He's trying to do like, you know, Olympic Steph, like Paris Steph, you know, right. Dagger, and then do the night. That's what he's trying to do. And he's done it so many times. He's been successful doing it so many times. But like, just from like a down and distance perspective, shooting that shot, a tough step back with 13 seconds left in the game and 11 seconds on the shot clock when you are ahead in the game by 1 point is just not smart. It's not smart.
And then every headline became the Warriors lost because of the officials,
because of the refs,
according to Steve Kerr.
And I think if you're Steve Kerr, I think the appropriate way to handle that is to say, I didn't like that call, but we lost the game down the stretch with what we did, with what
your team scored 90
points. We can't control what the referees call, but we can control every other possession, and we can control taking bad shots. We can control not turning the ball over. I don't know, man. It wasn't great, but do you think that this is an example of why the Warriors should be in the trade market to get a second creator?
I mean, I thought they needed that anyway. I think that's why they were showcasing everybody over the course of the first, 2 months of the season. They're playing everybody to try to get, and that's why they're trying to do this with Kuminga right now. They're trying to get Kuminga's value up. Why is Jonathan Kuminga taking the most shots on the team the other night?
I don't know.
In a cup game. He's the one that most field goals attempted is Jonathan Kuminga in that game.
So the Podfather did a good job on his pod, sort of breaking down the trade stuff. And mentioning the Nets I thought was interesting. And I thought mentioning Schroeder in particular I thought was interesting. Mm-hmm. I could see that working.
Absolutely.
I could see that working,
I'm going to see him in person tonight.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. I can't wait to watch Dennis Schroeder.
Phoebus Schroeder?
He's been good this year. He's been good.
Really good this year.
That Nets team has been much more competitive than I think anybody expected them to be coming into the year. Now, they very well may trade. They may trade Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith and Dennis Schroeder, but they're doing a good job, building the value up of those guys as well. But yeah, I would be shocked if the Warriors don't make a win now move. The timeline, this is the time. So
all you need to do is look at Draymond Green's beard, and you have to be in win now mode. There's a lot of gray in that beard. You gotta get this. That beard says win now. That beard says win now mode. Also, I want to give a quick shout to my guy Şengün. Some big buckets down the stretch.
He did hit some big buckets.
It was also a good example of like the Rockets. We've talked about it a lot, but the Rockets like need a guy. They've got 7 B pluses, but no A minuses. And down the stretch, you're like, who are they going to go to? And they go to Şengün against Draymond Green or Kevon Looney.
And it's also going to be hard. Like, this is a team that has done it with defense. And we have seen some of these teams that have started off the year that have really hung their hats on the defensive end. And that's why they're able to be successful this year. And we know that when it comes playoff time, that's when the lack of offense is truly going to be able to show up on a game-to-game basis. This is why you have seen, when we have chronicled throughout the weeks, the Clippers with their defensive efficiency and what they've been able to do
Hawks.
so far.
We've talked about the Thunder, the Magic, the Hawks, the Clippers, the Rockets.
These teams really being able to win with defense, which on a game-in, game-out basis during the regular season gives you the opportunity to have an outstanding regular season record and maybe outperform what we initially expected because each and every night they defend, and that's how they're able to get it. And yet, when we're thinking forward and we're thinking about their ability to be able to, have a trajectory where they can win playoff series, that it's not good enough to be okay or bottom half of the league offensively. That really shows up when it comes to the playoffs. You can get by during the regular season being awesome defensively and okay to subpar, awesome defensively and okay to subpar offensively, but you cannot in the playoffs.
No. Well, I think all those teams, and this is an example of what we're talking about with the Rockets, is the Hawks, let's say a last possession, the Hawks are going to give it to Trey, right? And, the Thunder are going to give it to SGA. And the Magic would give it to Paolo or Franz. And the Rockets, you're just like, I don't know. We talk about these defensive teams. You're like, well, the Rockets are going to maybe Şengün, maybe Jalen Green, like maybe Van Vliet. Like, I don't really know.
Also, that Warriors team, another one.
Yeah.
The defense has been the story for what they've been able to do thus far this year. I mean, they have not been some kind of offensively potent team. Player you loved?
So I'm a die easy Knicks fan. Like I'm not a loyal for life sort of fan. I grew up in Amherst, Massachusetts, and I was born in '78. So like I'm prime Larry Bird. Like Larry Bird, I was like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 watching Celtics games. I had a Larry Bird legend poster that I would literally pray to before going to traveling team games. I would look at the legend Larry and I would pray to it. But like, Larry, give me strength to get buckets tonight. Big Larry Bird fan, right? I lost my fandom with the Celtics when I moved to New York and just went to too many Knicks games. But player I love this week is Derry Bird.
Derry Bird.
A.J. Green, undrafted from Northern Iowa, entered the portal. And he said, you know what? I'm not coming back to college. I'm going to the draft. Didn't get drafted. Goes to the Bucks on a two-way. Now starting to get some real burn. Because what was the problem with the Bucks early in the season? They looked old, they looked slow, and they couldn't defend anybody. Now, A.J. Green is not going to be a defensive stopper, but he works on that end. But he can dump it, man. And in that game against the Magic, it was not a great half. The first half was not great for Derry Bird. Couple air balls. 2 air balls. Throwing 1 air ball is one thing, but 2 air balls in the first half for Derry Bird. But at the end, he hit some big shots, and he had 9 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block in 33 minutes. But in the previous 2 games leading into that Magic game, 2 for 2 from 3. So Derry Bird's been a little bit of a streak. And what's happened here is...
You just like the name.
I like the name. I just wanted to say Derry Bird a lot.
You just wanted to say it.
I wanted to say Derry Bird a lot. But I will say this is actually real. Between Andre Jackson Jr. and Derry Bird, Pat Connaughton is just like, he better be getting his cardio somewhere else.
Do you know, I just saw something popped up on my Instagram yesterday that it was like, some people could probably find this. So I'm just saying this in passing because you mentioned content. It was like Pat Connaughton's estate management or
I saw that too.
It was like already
$500 million.
Yeah, I was like, what?
Yeah, he like flipped a house when he was in Notre Dame.
They already have
now
500.
He's got like I get so mad at this stuff.
It's at $550 million in assets, and I was like, what?
What? He's a real estate mogul.
Okay,
Pat Connaughton is a real estate, so he doesn't need minutes. He doesn't need
do
minutes
whatever.
anymore. He owns half of the Midwest.
This guy's playing Monopoly.
Yeah, good for Pat Connaughton. Well, he's not getting run anymore. He's not in the rotation.
The other thing is, do you think anyone has ever been disappointed when AJ Green walked in for a dinner reservation? And they
yeah.
Do you remember that one? There was like, was it a Sports Center commercial years ago? I think it was. Where
with the Michael Jordan thing?
The Michael Jordan was making reservations or whatever.
Yeah. I don't think it was a sports. It was an ESPN commercial. Yeah, ESPN? With all the other Michael Jordans in the world.
Yeah. And so when they make a reservation, they make a reservation as Michael Jordan. But I mean, AJ Green is a rather unique name to have. And he was one of the great receivers.
And he was in the Midwest. He played in Ohio.
Right.
So it's so it was not implausible if you're in the Midwest and you've got a fancy restaurant and you've got AJ Green on the reservation. And then the other Derry Bird walks in. He's like, table for AJ Green. It's someone at the host stand will be like, I'm sorry, sir, but you're not AJ Green.
Yeah.
we thought
this was the receiver.
Yeah. They switched the tables really quick. They're like, all of a sudden, the Derry Bird is back by the kitchen in the shadows. But originally, the AJ Green was supposed to be right in the center of the restaurant.
And he's like, look, I'm not the receiver, but I play for the Bucks. They're like, get the hell out of here.
No, you don't
play for the Bucks. People are like Googling it.
Prove it. Prove it.
All right. Player that I love. This is a losing effort, but my God, I am in absolute love with Jalen Suggs. Golly, I love him. I mean, so we talked about it earlier in the week, how the minister, Jonathan Isaac, reportedly stood up in front of the team in a players' meeting after they had lost Franz Wagner to the oblique bug that is going around the Orlando Magic. And he said, we need to follow Jalen Suggs. He's our guy now. And then he rewarded him with a huge game against the Phoenix Suns, and it was this great story. And there we are. They've got this chance, and everybody expects them to get absolutely buried by the Milwaukee Bucks, but instead, they were game the entire time. And you get to that second half, he's got 23 in the second half, and then you get to the fourth quarter, and it's like, okay, they've got Dame and Giannis. You've got Suggs. And he had 18 in the fourth. He did everything he possibly could to try to win that game and then missed that three with 12 seconds left to go. And it broke my heart because I thought that could have been just the most unbelievable story of them. They lost Paolo and Franz stepped up like crazy and showed this ability to do more. It also shows how much they sacrifice for each other when everybody is healthy because of their ability to do it individually when they are down guys. And he played like a superstar in that game.
Verno, you're not even mentioning this. He I don't know what he did to his thumb, but his right thumb.
Yep.
His right thumb, he had to go back to the locker room and get it taped up. And I was like, oh no, now they lost him. It looked bad. I think it was caught in a jersey or something. I don't know exactly what happened. But imagine if injuring your right thumb so bad that you have to go back to the locker room and get it looked at. And then it's your shooting hand. And then coming out and scoring 18 in the fourth. Like I thought they were done. I thought Suggs was done for the game. It was his right thumb. And then they threw a pass to him, right? Right when he got back into the game. And it was a little bit over his head. And it was a heavy pass. and he couldn't even catch it. And I was like, oh, this is over. Suggs' day is over. The Magic are over. And then, as you mentioned, he just kept going. I really feel like if Suggs was hurt, next thing you know, Anthony Black is going to score 30. Anthony Black gets hurt, Gogo Patazzi scores 30. And Gogo Patazzi gets hurt, then Cole Anthony scores 30. Like, it was wild, dude.
They got a good chemistry. They got really good players. And the other thing with Suggs is he is a constant reminder of everybody's trajectory is different. If you would have decided what Suggs was after 1 year, if you would have decided what Suggs was after year 2, it is a radically different opinion than everybody has as of today. And I loved him at Gonzaga. When they were going through the draft, I remember falling in love with him even more after watching his football highlights. Thinking like, oh God, this kid is an absolute, like he's one that you want in the trenches. This is one you want to go to war with. But it took a while. It took a while for him to become what he has become. And so it's a great story all around, and his ability to step up in a do-or-die game was everything I think you could have bargained for, and damn near got it done against a team that they probably had no business getting it done against.
Now, we celebrated Suggs' extension. We celebrated him as a player in the preseason, but we weren't talking about his offense as much.
Well, and also
we were celebrating his defense.
And the extension, and I know that some of the, some Magic fans hit me up. The extension, not that I hated the extension, I was just surprised because of the limited amount of games. If you look at the amount of games he has played thus far, but it feels like it very well may be not at the same level. I'm not calling him Steph Curry, but I'm saying in the sense that you might have gotten a much better deal that enables you going forward to pay Franz what you got to pay him, pay Paolo what you're going to pay him, because they're going to catch a break on the Paolo thing because he's not going to be able to make all NBA and everything for that, Supermax extension. But that you're going to look back and you're going to go, wow, they dedicated themselves to this guy. They got him he is a guy that has a tremendous ability, and I would foresee a circumstance where it's 100%. He outperforms his contract.
Absolutely. I agree. And
so
I
good
think
job by them. Good job by them.
A lot of people forget that like the key to the Warriors dynasty was Steph Curry hurting his ankle.
For sure.
That was the key. That was the key to the dynasty. That's what unlocked it. And then I love that Suggs game. You did mention that 3 that he missed. I didn't love that possession. They got Dame in front of him.
Yeah,
and he goes between the legs 4 times and then just pulls up. And if you've got Dame in front of you, like Dame Lillard is a great player, but he's not a great on-ball defender. And I think the whole reason that no one is setting you a pick in that spot is so you can dribble past him and use your size. And I just think going between the legs 3 times and then just pulling up and taking sort of a quick trigger 3, I didn't love. But it was a great game by him. And that's certainly a player that I love this week as well.
Player you loathe. Who'd you loathe? What player?
Okay. I went with person I loathed. Part of the NBA experience. And I feel very passionately about this. And there are children in the car. I'm just going to let you know now I'm going to curse.
Uh-oh.
There is part of my NBA watching experience pisses me off every single game.
Language.
I get so mad about this.
Oh.
So once upon a time, I got irrationally upset about the Antonelli's Cheese Shop commercial. Do you remember that one?
No.
It's the Capital One Antonelli's Cheese Shop. And it was an Austin, Texas cheese shop with the Antonellis, and they sold cheese, and they were a small business, and Capital One has a small business card that would help you out. Every game that I watch, I can't fucking stand Jennifer Garner acting like a farmer. I cannot stand it. This is supposed to be a small business, and Jennifer Garner is walking through an apple orchard. You might know me from my other job. And it's like, and then she's in overalls, acting like she's like tilling the soil, and she needs a Capital One small business card to keep her small business afloat. Once upon a farm. Well, guess what? I did some fucking research, Jennifer Gardner. You just got $52 million in funding. This is a $100 million company. No, my family farm supplies the Once Upon a Farm product. Yeah, you're not live in Beverly Hills. And then I go to the website of Once Upon a Farm, and here she is in fucking overalls, holding pumpkins with boots on, acting like she's watering pumpkins every day. You're a Hollywood actress worth millions of dollars. Your company is worth $100 million. You're not a small business. And she's in the kitchen acting like she's whipping up a new recipe for baby pouches. It makes me so fucking mad. And then she's like, oh, you also get access to airport lounges. I can get used to this. You're Jennifer Garner. You don't need a Capital One small business card to get in the lounge. I hate it so much. And anyone who's ever operated a small business that's had to hold it together with blood, sweat, and loans has got to be so mad that Jennifer Garner's acting like my family farm. You're not a farmer. You're Jennifer Garner.
I need to ask my uncles. Both of my mom's brothers are still farmers to this day.
They've got to be so mad.
Oh, I wish I would have had this. I wish you would have done this before Thanksgiving because these are the guys that get up at like 5:30 in the morning and go farm soybeans and wheat every day, right? They are literally in a tractor every day of their lives. They've got to love the Jennifer Garner commercial.
I hate it so much. Literally, she's like picking apples. And then I went to the website and she's got overalls on. It's like, just stop it. Stop acting like a farmer. You're an actor. And then I Googled her fucking family.
Her grandparents did all the commercials.
Her grandparents did purchase a 20-acre farm in 1936 for $700. So there is like some legitimacy to it. Like there are some farmers in the Garner family. So like shout to them that really do the work. But stop pretending like you're keeping this business alive using your Capital One card just to get through the month and you can barely pay the bills.
You think those overalls are a costume?
Yeah. The wardrobe department provided those overalls and boots.
You don't think she has those from her day-to-day life?
And then so this woman, God bless the actual starter of this company, Once Upon a Farm, because in 2017, Garner and the former CEO of Annie's, a businessman, they entered the scene in 2017 and took it from a $1 million valuation to a $100 million valuation. And on top of that, she's a millionaire. She lives in Los Angeles. You do not need Capital One to keep your business afloat. I get so mad every time I see it. And everyone that listens to the Mismatch is going to feel just as fucking mad when they see her walking through that apple orchard and acting like she's never been to a lounge at an airport before. The only reason she's never been in a lounge at an airport before because she flies fucking private.
Well, I am glad you called for earmuffs because my goodness, the children out there.
Oh, God.
Some need to hear it, though. Some need to hear it. I don't even want to do my player I loathed. Because I had Luka.
Luka needed a Capital One card to buy a bucket in the first half.
I'm just gonna go through this quickly. To do or die game. It's superstar time. Done of a first half. Come back out in the third quarter. And I'm expecting, all right, look, let's stop acting like, the Oklahoma City did some. Luka has faced every defense in the world, right? You're allowed to have assists if they're bothering you. And instead, he comes out in the third quarter and is like 1 for 3 with 0 assists. Meanwhile, SGA's on the other side and he's got 16 in the third. Like the game, this is like, okay. Here's how the first half is going. Now, third quarter very well may go a long way towards deciding this game. Their superstar went bonkers. You were an innocent bystander to the harbor.
Oh, no. Oh, so I like that you said bystander because it was Candace. Shout out to Candace Parker. Her documentary is fantastic, directed by Joey Jacoby. And I will say this. Even Candace is like, hey, Luka, like maybe we should get some off-ball movement to get him involved. Because a couple times he would pass out of the double team and he would pull a James Harden. He would just stand there and be like, you guys operate. And that makes me so frustrated because, as you mentioned, he's seen double teams before. He's Luka Doncic. And he's seen Lou Dort before. And if you have
They just played them in the playoffs last year.
They need a counter strategy. If they're doubling you at half court, which I think is dumb personally, but someone tells me Mark Dagnall probably knows more about basketball strategy than I do. But if you're seeing that, you need a counter. And I just felt like he wasn't.
This is what,
putting forth the effort,
and that's why I brought up the third quarter, because it was like, okay, like you're one of the greatest players in the world, got a good coach, like you guys will figure this out. They came out in the third quarter, got their ass beat even worse. It was pathetic. It's crazy.
I found like just the effort level didn't seem to be there for a team that you played in the playoffs, a team that is the top of your conference. That I understand that Lou Dort is difficult to score on. I understand that they were double teaming you, taking the ball out of your hands, but you have to have a counter for that.
Right.
And it just seemed like he kind of gave up a little bit. I'll say it. Yeah, I loathed him too. It's a good call, Verno.
All right, thing you loved.
Jennifer Garner.
I went with Trey's dice roll. Did you love this or hate this?
Okay. I have to admit that I didn't understand it.
I want the maximum amount of smoke between Trae Young and the Knicks.
Yes,
I just want it to keep on getting more and more heated.
But I was like, why is he rolling dice? I was trying to figure out the meaning.
He's going to Vegas.
Then I figured it out. Yeah, then I had to do some research and he talked about going to Vegas. But I didn't get it at first. I was like, okay.
Oh, come on.
I didn't get it.
He's going to Vegas. It's the dice roll. I liked it.
Do you know what I loved about it?
I like celebrating. When do you ever see guys celebrating on other teams? That was like it was the equivalent of all those flag plantings we had in college football. I was going to bring that up too. Where everybody starts fighting each other. And yeah.
What I love the most about the dice rolling is Jalen Brunson after the game was asked about, and here's what he said, quote, "We should win the game if we don't want him to do that."
Wow.
That's the attitude I like. Not, don't disrespect the logo. Like he was like, you know what? If we don't want him to do that, we should win the game. I love that response.
We need a New York congressman or senator to make it a felony to dice roll on mid-court of the Knicks like that guy did in Ohio State.
Yeah, there is some Ohio councilman that tried to pass a law that you can't plant a flag in the middle. Win the game. I love Brunson's response to it. We should win the game if we don't want him to do it. I loved it. But I did like the dice rolling. And as you mentioned, like, I love the Trae Young versus New York storyline. And I think everyone involved loves it too.
Yes.
I think Trae loves it. I think New York loves it. Do you remember when they beat New York in Atlanta? And he was talking shit to the Knicks fans in Atlanta after the game. He's like, I hope those Knicks fans go home now. Like, he's not just doing this in MSG. He's doing it in Atlanta too. I love the dice roll thing. I loved it all. I love that when he threw that lob, he started skipping through it was like a 10-point game with like 4 minutes left. And he was just skipping around through MSG. And every time he would just look at the crowd. He was just trying to make eye contact with anybody in the crowd. I loved it.
I love the villainry.
I want to see a playoff series between these two.
Thing that you loathed outside of Capital One and Jennifer Garner.
God, I mean,
we are never getting them as a sponsor.
That's a good point. I take it all back. Yeah, edit that out. Edit that out.
No. Holler at us, Chase.
I got an Amex. I got a business Amex. The thing that I loathed, it's not the concept, it's the execution. It's the NBA courts for the court.
Oh.
It's not that I don't like the courts, the idea that you're making a new court and making it special. It's just the blank colorization of it. Like the Rockets one is just so red. And
but that was, and they should have leaned into that. Welcome to hell.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, Curry said it was like the fifth circle of hell or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just like I loathe that. And another one that what really bothered me is I'm watching the Bucks game, and there's a Skims logo on the court, and I'm like, can I enjoy an NBA Cup
that's
game
everywhere though?
without thinking about the Kardashians? Like, can I just have a Kardashian free NBA experience, please?
That's
please?
superimposed.
I know it is, but I'm just I just it makes me think about the Kardashians while I'm watching NBA basketball, and that bothers me. And those are the basketball things that I loathe. But I have a quick personal story I'd like to tell. Just give me 60 seconds of personal time. The real thing I loathe this week is we do a thing where we drive to New Jersey and cut down Christmas trees, right? And we've gone to various different Christmas tree farms. Some of them we show up and we just have to leave because the Christmas trees are so janky. But there's this one really good one that we go to. Charlie Brown Christmas Tree Farm. It's about 2 hours away from my house. We drive out there. The trees are huge, gorgeous, just great trees, like perfect shape, wild trees in this farm. And I get down on my knees.
Do you bring an axe or do they
they
provide
provide everything. They provide everything. They provide the saw. Not an
Do you wear your overalls?
yeah. And I get there, they provide a saw. I saw the thing down. They don't tie it to your car, so it's always a little nervous because you have to tie it to the car yourself.
Wait, but you have like little kids, so are they just standing around watching you saw?
No, they're running around and picking out trees. What about this one, Dad? What about that one, Mom? Like, it's fun. It's a huge thing. And we're all running around picking trees. We find the one tree we like. Everybody agrees, and then they're like, "I want to saw, Dad." I'm like, "Go ahead, try it." And they can't saw the thing. It's not hard, but they're kids. So I get down and I saw. Right, I'm sawing. And I get back. It was a Saturday, so a week ago last Saturday. Right, so it's now 10 days out, and a couple days later, there's like this little bump on my arm. I start scratching it, and there's another bump. Start scratching that. Next thing you know, my entire hand is covered in poison ivy.
Oh, no.
Have you ever had... I haven't had poison ivy since I was like 6. Have you had poison ivy?
Not since I was a child. Dude, the calamine lotion.
This.
Oh, no.
Look at this. It is nasty, nasty stuff. I'm now like day 12 of poison ivy, and it looks like really contagious and nasty, and I'm on the train and I can see people looking at it and like shifting away from me.
Get away from the leper.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I feel like a leper. And honestly, there's a part of me just wanted to drive back to Charlie Brown's Christmas tree farm and take the saw and just saw my arm off. That's how bad it was. Seriously, I was like, I'm not here to complain about the poison ivy. I'm here to borrow the saw. Just cut it off. So the thing I really loathe this week is poison ivy. I had to go to the doctor and get steroids. I'm on steroids right now.
That's why you look so swole.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm like me and Vince McMahon.
Yeah, you and Vince McMahon.
Yeah. Poison ivy is the thing I love.
Also, why I have an artificial tree.
Yeah, listen. No poison
Mine's
ivy
made
on
of
those
plastic.
Things. Fold it up, put it in the basement.
That's it. No, it's in the attic.
Yeah.
And you bring it down.
Bring it down, put it up.
Put it up.
There you go.
Yep.
God, poison ivy is the thing I love this week. What about you?
Thing that I loathe is all the stories now. I lamented a couple of weeks ago about all the rating stories. It's like all this stuff always like making something that you love. Like, hey, we know you love the NBA, but ratings are down and everything stinks and people don't like this thing. And now and I saw it last night, and this is going to be a real thing, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But if you want to go to Vegas and go to these basketball games, you could sit in the lower bowl for nothing, because with the way it played out with Bucks Hawks and with Thunder Rockets, I mean, you're into these things for less than $40. There's already stories about how these ticket prices. So I was there last year for this.
Mm-hmm.
They got absolutely saved by the Lakers.
Yeah.
They got absolutely saved by the Lakers because I remember it was just such a weird experience. The first game was the great game, which was Pacers and Bucks, and you had all the Halliburton smoke, and you had him doing the Dame time thing and whatever else. It was really weird because there's not Bucks fans and there's not a lot of Pacers fans that are there. They kind of darkened everything in the arena and then had the court lit up. And then the way they do it is it's not like the NCAA tournament where you kind of buy to both sessions and then you go to 2 games. They cleared out the entire arena. And then as I walked out of the arena, it was such an odd experience. Nelly is performing this, concert outside. The TNT guys are out there, and there's just throngs everywhere outside of T-Mobile of purple and gold. I mean, it's just everywhere. Yeah. This was a Lakers Invitational that took place last year in Las Vegas, which is a big national brand, but also close to the vicinity where Lakers fans could just go up there, and that's drivable. Now is the real test because none of these are big national brands. And, one of the things that I have lamented over the course of the last couple of years is how many decisions don't seem to be made with fans in mind, right? With the customer in mind. The kowtowing to the players and how many games they play. And there's all manner of things that take place. And this is another one of those where it's like, bro, if you're a fan of one of these teams, you can't just schedule, hey, I'm going to go out to Vegas and support my team.
No.
Right?
No.
So you are counting on either big national brands or somebody that is drivable to that. And so, look, you can throw all the conspiracy theories away, because if there was a conspiracy, you would have believed that they sure as hell wanted Steph Curry and the Warriors there.
Yes.
They ain't calling that. But I mean, I worry. As someone who was there last year, I worry about how they're going to get people in that arena and how this thing is going to look, and then kind of maybe having to rethink this, because this is, with the 4 teams that made this, you want it to be an event. You want it to feel like a big deal, and yet the in-person product is going to be, I mean, for God's sakes, you can get into this. I mean, you can't even get into regular season games for these prices. The prices are, do you see that? You can get into this Bucks Hawks for $25.
See, I saw those headlines too, right? And I saw that you were going to talk about this. So I went on the ticket app just to see. It's not as bad as you would think pricing wise, right? They're still $150, $250. I saw a $1,600 ticket. Like, it was like close to the court. So it's not that bad, but there's 2 things. This is a made for TV event. Right. And the people that are going to be in Vegas are people that are NBA fans, not diehard one team fans. Because even as like a Knicks fan, which I'm a easy Knicks fan, I would have to assume we're going to beat the Hawks and then buy tickets in advance. And then you just get screwed when they lose to the Hawks and lay an egg like they did. But the in-arena experience, because of the way it's set up, because you don't know who's going to be in it until 3 days before, is going to have sort of an all-star game crowd. And we've all been to those events where it's like just kind of corporate and it's just kind of like league people. But if you don't have a California team, I don't know if you're going to get a truly team loyal situation.
I just think you and I both bought into this. We both like the Cup. I'm for sure going to watch both these games. I just lament the fact that the environment's going to be so lame.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's just no way around it. There's no way real Hawks, Bucks, Thunder or Rockets fans are there.
There'll be some Thunder fans. There'll be some. I mean, there'll be some, but it's not going to be. It's not going to have an energy like a regular season game even has.
Correct.
Where there's a loud crowd in the fourth quarter,
right,
on the edge of their seat, standing up. You know what I mean? Like they might stand up on a final possession, but if a team goes on a 10-0 run, there's not going to be a crowd standing on their feet. And you call timeout and everyone loses their mind. Like, that's not happening. No. That's a bit of a drag. But they did plan it. I think there's no college football, right?
Yeah. I wish there was a way to have real fans as your team advances to this, because it's just going to be such a smattering of, because you also have to, you have to try to plan for 2 games. But if your team loses.
Exactly. That's another thing.
Right. Now you're there for an extra couple days. You're having to book a hotel room and probably just lose your ass gambling.
I was about to say, I was like, I can't. I've learned ever since I was like 28, I'm like, I'm not spending more than 2 nights in Las Vegas ever again.
I go every year for Summer League, and I've gotten so much better about it. So it took me years, but I decided that.
What have you learned?
So we never regret going to shows, and we never regret going out to eat somewhere great.
Okay.
We virtually always.
That's not what I was interested in. What do you regret?
We pretty much always regret going out super late or gambling super late. Those are the 2 things that we typically always regret. So we did a very good job this past year where it was like, okay, tonight, what are we going to do? And so we would just go and say, let's find a show and go to it. And so I went and saw Chris Angel. I went and saw Garth Brooks at Caesars.
Sure.
I went and ate at like these awesome restaurants, and it was so much better than usual. Like I came home from Summer League this past year with less regrets than ever.
It
was fun.
I remember being in Las Vegas, when I was in my 20s at a bachelor party, and I got nothing left in the checking account. I can't get any more money. And I'm at the Hard Rock and I need to get to New York. And I'm walking down the street, right? I think I've got like $1.50. I'm walking down the street and I see a homeless man sleeping on a bench. And I looked at him and I said to myself, me and you are in the same spot, buddy. That's like me and you got the same amount of money to our name right now. I remember flying from Vegas to Los Angeles after losing all my money and we're flying over some mountains. I remember saying to myself, I wouldn't mind if the plane just ran right into that thing. That would solve a lot of problems for me. That is the shame spiral depth
really
that I've
is.
been to in that city that I'm just too grown now and mature.
I had one.
Yeah.
I had the one night that I did. I was like, you know what? I just kept going back to the ATM and just kept on losing. And then
did the fingerprint thing? Have you done that thing?
No. And then
they take your fingerprint and give you money. They don't even get your bank account.
I'm not. Come on.
I've done that before. I've done that before.
I did the one night I did lose a bunch. I walked out and I've just got I've got my head down. I'm like, I've done it again.
Yeah.
So stupid. Why? Why did I even go back to the ATM? This is so dumb. And I'm walking out and I'm walking out. All of a sudden I hear all this commotion, right? There's like people like coming from this way. And I look up and it's all three Ball brothers walking in. And they're all like, trying to, people trying to get pictures, trying to get artists. They're like, LaMelo. Meanwhile, I'm just sitting like trying to stare at the floor, contemplate why I'm so stupid still at this age.
See, a couple of things I've learned from Vegas is you can't spend more than 2 nights. And one of the problems I've had there before is when you go to the nightclub, it's just me and my buddy, Mike. We go to the nightclub. I forget what it was. It's got a Japanese theme, Tao or something. I forget what it was. And we're going there. We get to the front. The guy's like, who are you with? Whatever. It's like, it's 2 guys. And they're like, you have to buy a bottle. Like, all right, well, how much is a bottle? It's like $600 something. We're like, screw it. Let's do it. But the problem with buying a bottle with 2 dudes is you end up drinking the bottle. You know what I mean? It's like we're sitting there.
You have to.
So it's like, well, what else? We bought
what
this
else thing. Are we going to do?
So next thing you know, we each drank half a bottle of vodka and now we're hammered. You know what I mean? It's like, it was a terrible decision. Don't buy bottles unless you got like 4 or 5 people because you're going to end up drinking it. And whatever you do, make sure that you're in bed before the sun comes up. And one time I was in Vegas and I was down bad, but I had a Capital One small business card.
Thank you to our executive producer, Jesse Lopez. As always, Jacoby, I'll talk to you next week.